Hello everyone, welcome to this class. We'll talk about introduction to biology for the high school and also the junior schools. So in today's class, we'll talk about the introduction part of the biology. So in today's class, let's see. The first thing we will see definition of biology. Then we'll talk about the why do you study biology. Then, as a third point, we'll talk about the scientific methods, how do pupils can do their research based on the scientific principles. And at the fourth point of the unit, what are the tools of biologists can use in the field as well as in the laboratory? In this case, we'll talk about two main points. At 4.1, we'll talk about laboratory tools, and also at 4.2 1.42 we'll talk about the field tools. So these are the main frameworks that we'll discuss about the introduction part of biology. In the first class we'll talk about definition of biology. So in the second part we'll talk about why do we study biology. On the third point we'll talk about the scientific methods. On the fourth point we'll talk about tools of biologists. Under this point, we'll see two subcategories. The first, known as 1.41, the laboratory tools. 1.42, known as the field tools. These are some of the points that we'll treat in the context. At 1.5, that means the fifth point of the unit 1, handling and using of light microscope. Out of the principles and the care that we expect to take to give the microscope. At this point, 1.51, parts and function of light microscope will talk. And at 1.52, we will talk about handling and using what? Microscope. So at 1.6, we'll talk about the general laboratory safety rules. So as you can see from this diagram, this unit has it is unit 1. Don't forget to it's unit 1. Under unit 1, the first point defining biology. The second point is what? Why do we study biology? As a third point, we'll talk about the scientific methods, which refers to the scientific research method. And as a fourth point, we'll talk about tools of biologists. These 2 points at 1.41 and 4.2, these are subcategories that are found under 4.1.41, the laboratory tools and the field tools. At 1.5, the fifth main point of the unit, handling and using of what? Light microscope. Under this, we'll talk two main points. The first, known as parts and function of light microscope, and 1.52, we'll talk about handling and using of microscope. At 1.6, the sixth main unit of the unit 1, general laboratory safety rules. These are the frameworks or the total content of the total content of what? The total content of unit 1. So let's see, begin to talk about the first part. So the first part, definition of biology. As you know, definition of biology uh, in simple category, study of life or what? Living things. Biology is simply study of life or what? Living things. So study of living things or uh, life is known as biology, or it's a branch of natural science, something like that. But simply study of life or living things is what? Biology. So what does it mean to alive? So since biology is studying life or living things which are what? Alive. which are alive. What do you mean when you say something is alive? Something is alive. So when something alive, it is difficult to define life. So we have to use the common characteristics shared by living systems. So it is not easy to talk about or to define about life by itself or living things. Instead, we can use those characteristics which can define life or a live thing, a living thing, or which is in alive. So let's talk about the main frameworks. Living things are living things are composed of one or what more cells. The following thing, living things. When you search for living things, yes, biology is the study of living things. We say that. So when you say living things, we are saying that they are composed of one or what more cells, and also they can grow. Look, they can composed of one or more cells. If they are composed of one cell, they are known as unicellular organism. Whereas if they are composed of many cells, they are known as multicellular 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 cells. So living things also can what? Grow means they increase their size, and also living things can reproduce means they can give the offsprings, meaning new daughter cells or new daughter organisms or childs. And also the other living things are capable of transmit genetic information to their offspring. So they are capable of transferring their genetic information from the parent to the offspring or to the newborns. And the other point, living things need what? Energy to accomplish their work. That means every living thing needs what? Food. Every living thing need what? Food. From the food they can get what? They can get the energy which is essential to survive in life. And also living things can maintain a relatively constant internal conditions, which is known as homeostasis. So the other point, capable of evolutionary what? Adaptation. They have evolutionary adaptation. These are some characteristics that can define or that can show the behaviors of life or living things. But these are, look, don't forget, these are the characteristics. They are not the definition of life. These are the characteristics that a living things can what? Exhibit or observe. Exhibit or observe. So, Bear bear in mind that these are the common characteristics that living things can exhibit or can show while they are alive. So it is difficult, as I told you before, it is difficult to define living things by itself, or also it's also difficult to define life, but we can explain or we can explain life or living things in terms of the characteristics they can what? They can exhibit, as I discussed earlier. As I discussed earlier. So let us see some additional points regarding the definition of biology. What's biology? Biology is the study of living organism, i.e., it might be human, it might be an animal, it might be microorganisms, it might be a plant. It might be a plant. So, in simply, biology is the study of living organisms. These living organisms can be in different forms. It can be human, it can be, it can be animals, it can be microorganisms, they can be what? Plants. So, in addition to the definition of biology, let's add some points regarding the fields of biology. Look here, the central point is what biology, but it have different branches. The first branch known as the botany, which study about plants, The other is known as the zoology, which study about what? Animals. The other which study about which is known as ecology, which study about organisms and their interaction with the environment. And also the other field of biology known as the morphology, which study about the external feature or external structures of living things. Anatomy, which study about the internal parts of living things. Taxonomy, which study about the naming and classification of living things. And also genetics, which is study about the transmission of genetic materials from the parent cells to the offspring. And the last, known as microbiology, which study about microorganisms such as bacteria. These are some of the fields that are uh, studied under what? Biology, but these are not the only ones. These are some of the examples that are found in a branch of biology, but these are not the only fields that study about what? Living things. So, the other point will be the relationship. Let's tell about the relationship of biology with other fields of natural science. So the other point, let's add something, is add relationships of biology with other fields of natural science. So biology by itself is not an island. That means it can be linked with different fields of biology, fields of natural science. As an example, let's see some of the fields that are related with related with biology. Let's see the first uh, chemistry. Now, chemistry studies about occurring elements in the living organisms. Study what elements which are found in living organisms, such as also chemistry studies about chemical bondings and also study about the molecules and acids and also study about bases. Other related things can be studied using the tool and principles of what? Chemistry. So these things which are found in living things, the elements, the chemical bonds between substances that are found in living things, the molecules that found in living things and such as acids, base, and also other related things can be studied using what? The tool and principles of what? Chemistry. Chemistry. And also chemistry and physics, as an example, scientific concepts like conversion of radiant energy meaning solar energy which comes from the sun, solar energy which comes from the solar or the sun, so energy into what? Organic molecules. So scientific concept like conversion means changing of radiant or solar energy or sun energy into organic molecules by a process known as photosynthesis is studied with the neurology of chemistry and physics. These are some examples that biology can be linked with other natural sciences. Let me add something in this card. So, as you know, science can be grouped into uh, actually, it's the natural science can be grouped into what? Biology, which study about life, chemistry, which study about chemicals, physics, which study about what? Machinery. These are the field of natural science. So let's see the links there. For example, let's talk about the biophysics, which shows the link between biology and physics. Biochemistry, which links biology with what? Chemistry. Chemistry. Biogeography, which study about biology and what? Earth or what? Geography. Biometry, which study about biology and what? Maths. These are the fields that are linked with what? Biology. Linked with biology. So the other point that we'll discuss is what? what is the reason that we study what biology? Why do we study biology? Biology, what is the reason or the rationale behind studying what? Biology. So let's see. The first thing, it is important to study biology to understand how living things work. That's how living things work. It tries to answer the question how living things exist all over the universe or all over the world, how they work, and also how they function, interact with what? The environment, how they function, the way how their body works, and also interact with what? The environment. And also it is important to discover what? Drugs. Why do you study biology? We study biology what? To discover different drugs which can cure human beings and animals, and also which play a vital role in human health. The third reason why we study biology, to know animals and plants body work. To know animals and plants body work. How plants and animals body work their functions, such as reproduction, such as respiratory, such as transpiration, and so on and so on. To define and to know how our body works. And the other reason, how to know how ecosystems work. Why do you study biology? The other point, to know how ecosystems work, and also how advancements in genetics and cell biology are transforming to medicine and what agriculture. The to apply the information or the neurology of what? The neurology of the genetics and also cell biology are transforming to what? Medicine and what? Agriculture. To apply our neurology or what? Medicine what? Medicine and agriculture. The other point that you will, how do you study biology? And also it is important to use of forensics biology to investigate what? Crime. Investigating the fingerprints of human beings who commit the crime and assist the forensic investigation. And also it is important to study how ecology is helping societies to understand how the ecology or the environment helps the society. And also it is important to evaluate environmental issues such as global warming, pollution, and so on. The impact of global warming, the impact of pollution, and the impact of climate change, and which affect the environment, and also the environment affects human beings. And also the other reason why we study biology, how fermentation is used to produce alcoholic drinks such as beer and wine, such as beer and wine. And also to study biological studies are used in what? Treating patients suffering from what? AIDS, tuberculosis, and some types of cancer. We use the knowledge of biology, the knowledge of biology, and also the information or the understanding that we had from biology help us to treat AIDS, tuberculosis, and types of cancer. Cancer. So the other point that we in next class we'll talk about the scientific method of scientific research. Until then, have a nice time. Bye bye.